Hello and welcome to the first video on my new channel. I wanted to do a video, a walk around on this Valiant that I had purchased this spring. I found this on Facebook Marketplace and kind of been looking for an A-body. This thing already had a big block in it and the price was right, so of course I went and picked it up. So this car had been mothballed for a while, advertised as did not run, but the engine turned over. 440 in this thing, 8 3/4, 727, you know, all the right bits, parts, pieces to make a good, go fast A-body. So, went and picked the thing up. The owner's son gave me an article that was written about this car by Uncle Tony, so I put his sticker on this car. Back in 1985. Had to have been written in 85 because it was the first issue of Mopar High Performance. And the issue didn't come out until spring of 86. So this car looks basically exactly like it did in the article, with the exception of the air cleaner was a little bit different. I'll have to take some pictures and insert them into this video. Had a cool intake setup. I had this old Velocity stack laying around. It was better than, you know, it had a different, you know, aftermarket air cleaner on it. So put the Velocity stack on it. Makes it look a little bit more 80s vintage. I bought it with different wheels and tires on it. It had Magnum 500s. I'll show you the wheels and tires, and they were actually the wheels and tires that were in the 1985 article. I went through the, you know, the engine. The engine was really in superb shape, even though it had been mothballed for almost 25 years. Mothballed sometime in the 90s. You know, it turned over really well. I brought a borescope when I went to go purchase the thing, and the cylinders really look phenomenal. The guy did a really good job mothballing the car, you know, draining fluids, doing all the appropriate stuff. So the engine, you know, after going through the fuel system was just absolutely cashed out. I had to put a new fuel pressure regulator on it. It's the same style as what was on there. Also, the electronic ignition module was garbage. It was leaking. You can kind of see on the rail, and then they start leaking their goo. So that got replaced. I went through some of the wiring. Some of the wiring the connections were a little bit wonky, so went through all that stuff. Had to put an alternator on it. Had to fix all those connections, redo those connections. Put a new brake master cylinder on it. Put some header wrap on it. There used to be like an aluminum shield in there, and it was a little difficult to work around, so I took that off. Put the shield on it. And was able to fire it up. And this thing, the guy did a really good job on this motor. The thing sounds really good. I did find a set of kind of more vintage center lines. This car, I drove it just a little bit down the road and back, and it needs all the help, all the traction help you can get. So I actually have a Calvert rear spring setup and strange double adjustable aluminum shocks. I've already done the front, and I still need to do the back. But overall, you know, the body is in really good shape. It was a 6-cylinder, 3 on the tree, 3-speed car with a slant 6. All the paint, you know, the paint's old, so it's starting to show somewhere, you know, in the corners, a little bit of delamination on the trunk floor, and then the bottom of the fenders, you know, didn't come through unscathed, got some rust on them, but just really a very cool car. I'm gonna try and find some of the parts that, like the valve covers. These actually kind of look like factory OEM style chromed valve covers. They have part numbers on them and stuff, so maybe original direct connection. There was a lot of direct connection literature. The guy was from the Detroit area that built this car. No interior when I got it. He did give me some of your pretty standard bucket seats, E-body style bucket seats, consoles out of a GTS, and like the 8 3/4 that's in this car came out of a Dart GTS. I'll show you the tires, which are really cool. Magnum 500s, which was originally what was on the car. When was the last time you saw BF Goodrich belted TAs that have that kind of text on them and that tread pattern? Don't exist. Also, the Mickey Thompsons. You cannot get a Mickey Thompson. You can't get 14-inch tires that are this wide anymore. They're not available. So otherwise, I might have stuck with the 14-inch, the Magnum 500s. But those are going to one of my buddy's sons. That he bought a '68 Sport Satellite from me. So those Magnum 500s are going for that project. But I'll go ahead and start this thing up. It sounds so good. So there you go. Thing sounds good. So in the article, per the article, and talking to the owner, the guy that built it back in the early 80s, this is a 440 out of a 69 Charger RT. It is an HP block. One thing about this motor, that I typically get these cars, I kind of polish them up, and then get them running and driving and pass them on to another owner. I don't think that's going to happen with this car. This thing is, man, this is something I've always really wanted, big block, a body. But one really cool thing about this motor in particular is it shares my birthday. So the date, the build date that's stamped into the pad is 4/25, which is the same as my birthday. So I think me and this car are cosmically entwined. So, same hood as what was in the article. I mean, this car is the same. Even the bent up grill, you could see, I was like, man, something must have happened to it in storage. Not the case. It is exactly the same. It's the same kind of twisted bent grill that was in that article. Obviously, this is a 6-pack snorkel grafted onto a steel hood, showing somewhere this happens a lot to these grafting jobs. People don't properly prep them. And also, this thing's like, the paint job on this thing is probably dang near almost 40 years old. So kudos to whoever did this, really, because it lasted quite a while. Obviously, that will need to be redone. Again, these cars, I typically will just kind of clean them up, get them running good, and then sell them pretty economical to the next person. I don't really need to make a whole lot of money. I don't feel like I need to make a whole lot of money on any of these things, just kind of to compensate me for my time a little bit. Maybe, I just enjoy getting these things back on the road, getting them out of barns and out of the woods and getting them back on the road where they should be, and people enjoying them. But I think this one is gonna be mine forever. So I'm gonna do a few things, like I'm gonna lower the front down. I know on fender well headers, a lot of times you have to raise them up a bit so that way you can get some sort of turning radius, because you can see on the header pipe where the tire does rub on it. It's kind of hard to see, this thing won't focus right, but typically on these header pipes sometimes you'll see somewhere. But yeah, super cool car. Totally pumped about it. There'll be more video. I want to take this thing to the track. A couple more safety items I do need to do to this thing. You know, needs carpet. I bought a rear seat for it. I'm gonna recover that. I'm going back and forth whether to keep the GTS console. I did pick up a bench seat for the front, so we'll see. Maybe I'll recover those E-body buckets in the same color as the rear seat. I'm going to keep the blue interior. I really like the off-color interiors. I had a blue interior in my 66 New Yorker. That car I sold. Bought a couple more cars. Obviously this one included. But this might get a little bit of a cage. It will. I'm thinking this car will get painted so it the same black. I like this black on this car. Do a couple things to it. Swap in the Calvert rear suspension. Need to do some stuff like the battery cutoff switch, which I didn't have in there. All safety stuff that needs to happen to be legal to drag race anymore. But I'll probably clean all this up back here as well. I don't know if I'll splatter paint it. I kind of feel a little funny about repainting these things. You know, this car was originally blue. Super solid, like I said, super solid car though. I mean, a body with a spare tire well that's still intact. That says a lot. But I may splatter paint it. You know, my 65 Coronet was factory spatter paint. I kind of like that look, so I'll probably spatter paint it. Holds up a little bit better to scratching, things like that. So, oh yeah, an adjustable bump stop too. That'll probably be going on. Not probably, I'm sure it will. But very cool car. Needs to go to the track, make some improvements on it. I would like to get this car running deep into the 11s, even maybe someday a 10 after I put a cage in it. And nothing's more old school than nitrous. So I have a couple of plate systems around. I might just bite the bullet and buy a new kit. That way all the solenoids and everything are fresh, so I don't have to worry about that kind of stuff. Just put a small spray on it, you know, 150 horse shot, ain't gonna hurt a 440. But yeah, that's it.